speaking very generally about the hats of the Kagyu tradition, it's actually a very broad subject because unlike the Sakya, Gelug, and Jonang, Bodong traditions, uh, talking about their hats is easy because they don't have tremendous variety. The Kagyu tradition, and here we're talking about Marpa Kagyu. We're talking about the Marpa Milarepa form, not the Shangpa Kagyu, which is a completely separate tradition and unrelated. But the Marpa Kagyu, we really don't start getting into hats until the student of Milarepa, Reichungpa. Reichungpa is the first one that we notice within that tradition that has a hat. And in this case, it is like a white cone placed on top of the head. You know, it's almost like a parking cone for traffic control, or it's, in the Western world, we would call it a kind of a dunce cap. And it can be in many different varieties, and we have to believe that this is based almost entirely on the artist rather than some kind of oral tradition for the iconographic depiction. But with the other student of Milarepa, Gampopa, then again we get a hat, and in the Kagyu tradition it's often called a Gampopa hat, and it is really the beginning of the fan-like style of hat, where you have this very large brocade cloth textile hat on top of your head. It's almost like a half moon. And the proper Gampopa hat has very large lappets that come down the sides. Later traditions actually turn these up. So within the Drukpa Kagyu, Drikung, and Taklung, you'll often find that they have the same hat, but the large lappets on the sides are turned up. So the hat is clearly on the head without any textile falling around the ears, covering the ears, or resting on the shoulders. So the Marpa Kagyu tradition in general, it uses the fan-like hat, which we generally say it comes from Gampopa. And then it also uses a Pandita hat, because the Pandita hat is coming from India, and it's for monastics, and it's for educated monastics, abbots, and scholars. And so this is commonly used by all of the Kagyu traditions. All of them have access to the Pandita hat. Now, the third type of hat you find predominantly coming out of the Karma Kagyu tradition, and that's the cap style, where it's a much smaller hat, and it kind of just sits almost precariously on the top of the head, and it can be in many different colors. In the Karma Kagyu, they have black, red, orange, green, white, green speckled. They have a tremendous variety of these caps. And the origin of these caps appears to be either the Yuan court of China and Mongolia, as the Mongolians claim, or it's a Chinese court minister's hat coming from the Han and coming from the Yongle period of really the very early 15th century. So there's different origin stories for these hats. Needless to say, to talk about hats of the Kagyu in general is just a very broad topic, and it's just enough just to say that there are many, many different varieties, because there are so many different forms and branches of the Marpa Kagyu.